committees that are disbanded and reformulated annually, and yet we have ad hoc committees that seem to stagger on through time. And the odd thing about that is that ad hoc committees typically are to deal with a specific subject for a limited period of time. They're not intended to be de facto standing committees, and I would appreciate hearing from County Council on whether I'm correct in the way that I'm stating that. But it might be that if we disband standing committees and reform them on an annual basis, we should also perhaps disband ad hoc committees on an annual basis and then have a real discussion about whether it's warranted for them to continue. So that'd be my suggestion, is that we hear from County Council.
On that, the reason that the ad hoc committees are the carryovers because the committee simply hasn't come to the board with a reporting out of findings. So, which that can be done for different reasons. I don't serve in these committees, so, but for different reasons they've been carried over. I mean, if you take on some of these committees, you can report them the findings out and eliminate them within one meeting if the committee so desires. Supervisor Brown?
Yes, certainly on page 2. Has to do, it's the very last item with water rights decision 1610. That's an ongoing. I would very much like to serve on that ad hoc committee.
And so do I. And if, just to comment on that, that wasn't formed until November of last year, so there was just not enough time to have the first meeting in light of what was all going on.
Sure, and I think it's important that that particular ad hoc committee carry forward.
Yeah.
It's very pertinent and timely.
And this is not about, this agenda item is about dropping or adding ad hoc committees. It's about basically approving the list we have with which members are going to serve.
Thank you.
So,
Mr. Chair, if I may, Supervisor McCowan's statement regarding ad hoc committees is exactly correct. I mean, they are for a limited duration and for a specific purpose. So I strongly recommend that you do go through this list and you eliminate the ad hoc committees that have been around for several years, and if you want to reformulate them, then we do that, put that on the agenda for next week, and we do that. But we have existing ad hoc committees that, should really have been disbanded long ago. Well, so
as chair, I will direct clerk of the board to make sure that they're not all at once, but they'll get agendized, and the committee will report out, and we'll and if there is a need to continue these on, then we'll probably put it in, either create another standing committee or include it within our standing committees, the issues. But we will deal with it here in the first 6 months of this new year. Tom?
Thank you. Tom Mitchell, Chief Executive Officer. A couple of comments on the schedule here. For instance, under 2007, there was an ad hoc committee relating to the revenue sharing agreement between the county and the city of Ukiah. Recently, there was a meeting held between the city and the county and the board chair and the mayor and county councils. We do have a agreement the county councils are working on. I don't see a need for us to have another ad hoc committee on that subject. We will be packaging an item and bringing it forth before the whole board for direction. Also, under 2007, there was a board ad hoc regarding wave energy. We now have a board committee relating to coastal issues that Supervisor Colfax and Supervisor Smith are on, and wave energy is part of a component of that new coastal initiative that's being done through CSAC. And then finally, going down to the second page, there was some original discussion about Cow Mountain, and I haven't heard any discussion. Our staff certainly has not been involved in Cow Mountain for a lengthy period of time. So I think I would concur with County Council's comments that many of these matters Again, I've only been here a little over a year, but I've the diversity policy matter, which is a 2006 ad hoc. I'm not even sure what the diversity policy matter ad hoc does.
So can I direct you within the next 60 days that you come back with 3 or 4 of these and get the committees together and get them to report out and get them closed out within the next 2 months?
Well, certainly we could do
On
that.
those four issues that you just talked, not on all of them, but the 4 issues.
Just looking down the list, however, some of the current assignments, the board members are no longer currently seated by the board, so it would be, our office can meet. It looks like most of the issues we can deal with.
I'm talking about just the 4 you mentioned, not all of them.
Just the 4 we mentioned?
Just the 4.
Certainly.
Within
yes.
the next 60 days.
Oh, certainly we can do
Okay,
that.
that'd be good. That'll be a good start. Supervisor Smith? David?
I agree with what is being suggested. Supervisor McGowan referred to the staggering character of these ad hoc committees. I disagree with that, having being a member of, I think, 5 or 6 of these ad hoc committees. But I've always felt that these are kind of stepchildren of this whole committee system. And I think what we need to do is really make better use of the general government committees and the public resources committees and so forth. The one that's up there at the very top of the list with regard to emergency medical services. We're going to have that continuing with us indefinitely as we try to deal with so many of these issues. But my opinion on that, and I think Supervisor Delbar would have agreed with me at this point, is that that needs to be either discussed in general government or maybe even county resources, depending on the nature of the issue, and needs to be discussed by the whole board and shouldn't be sitting there for now. We're talking about going on 6 years that's been out there. We haven't got the helicopters landing on the roof of Memorial Hospital yet, and without a lot of problems associated therewith. But I think that is just how we got that created and have never undone this one. So I would say that as you go down the whole list, we should be saying that goes into this committee or that goes into that committee, and we can always put it into a different committee. But I think we have to use the standing committees functions more efficiently than we have, not only here, but as we go through our activities here at the board level. Not everything we think of as we sit here at the board on any given Tuesday needs to come back before the whole board. I think we need to start sending more things into the standing committees so they get a kind of an overview, so you have a couple of supervisors who are tuned in and can kind of shape the discussion rather than have it be a free-form discussion. So I think this is an opportunity for us to be thinking more generally. I thank Mr. McCowan for his comments on this whole setup. But I would like to see this dealt with more systematically than just 1 or 2, if I may, through the chair.
Supervisor Smith?
Yes, along those lines, to sort of piggyback on my colleague's comments, I concur with the general spirit of what Supervisor McCowan is speaking about. So Supervisor Colfax, I'll ask you to try to speak here in some specifics, see if we can eliminate some of these right now. Would you agree then we could eliminate this EMS committee, the first one, knowing that that issue is long-standing and it'll come back in a different form? I used to attend those meetings myself in Sonoma County before I was even a supervisor. Mm-hmm. So, and Supervisor Delbar is no longer here, so I think that one hasn't really functioned as an ad hoc for quite some time, right?
That's right, yes.
So should we
yes.
just, so we should
I would
just,
say let's
eliminate
general
that.
government if we
Let me
need.
stop here a minute.
Yeah.
We're not agendized today to eliminate ad committees. We're just
Well, we
talking
could,
about the
because
membership.
it's before us, we could.
Discussion and possible
Yeah,
action.
I think we could cut to the chase, and I can,
We can eliminate those right
Yeah.
now?
yeah,
Okay.
I think we ought to cut to the chase and do a few of them. If they're controversial, there's not agreement,
Okay.
let's keep them going. So I
Okay,
would,
before we do that, Supervisor Smith, because that's gonna come in the form of a motion, what I wanna do is I wanna go to the public and ask them
Okay.
if there's any members of the public who wanna speak on these ad hoc committees and their membership. Okay, no discussion. Come back.
Okay. So, and I was actually wanting to get Supervisor